Film Dive Podcast.
And then it's just sequel after sequel after sequel.
There was no character development at all.
Just on pure technical levels.
There are filmmakers that don't want it just to be an entertainment experience.
Hello and welcome to Mid Academy Online Film Dive Podcast.
So we're going to start a new type of podcast this week, where we're going to sort of delve into the lives of various directors and other people within the industry. And we're going to start with the big one.
The big cheese.
The big
kahuna.
cheese. What kind of cheese would that be?
Oh, I don't
Is it feta? Or is
Maybe camembert.
Something expensive?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know the expensive ones. One of those ones you go to the wineries and they charge a lot for.
Yeah, something really vintagey.
Vintage cheese. Yeah, he's getting a bit vintage now, isn't he?
He is.
So we're talking about
Mr. SS.
Steven Spielberg.
Yay, drum roll.
All right. So I guess we'll start off with his childhood. Just give you a brief understanding of his upbringing, and then we'll start diving into various different productions that he's done and our thoughts on those.
I mean, his background is pretty well documented, and if you're into film, most chances are that you already know about him. But we're going to sort of just go through it quickly for those that don't, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess his journey. Let's bring you on a journey. His journey starts
In the desert.
In the desert, living near a air base.
Yeah, airbase, yeah, for the Air Force.
Where he would make little films on that base, war films, film different airplanes flying in the air. Then he also was able to get access to those on the ground, so he'd film his friends pretending to fly them on the ground, shooting it on an angle so it looks like it's in the air.
So he'd be lying on the ground or just doing low angle shots upwards.
Yeah, so all you could see was the sky, and then he'd intercut that with various shots of the planes flying, which quite clever actually, especially for that time when you're working with 8mm or 16mm film, as opposed to the digital stuff we're used to, where we can just film anything and then make it work. But back then there wasn't, and you all had to film things and get it sent off to get your film processed, just like you used to when you had like the analog stills cameras. Then you'd edit it by hand with scissors.
Snip, snip.
Hence where the term cut comes from.
Yeah,
because
true.
you were literally cutting up
the
film, which is kind of a scary thought. If you cut the wrong bit off, you're fucked.
Yeah. It's amazing, like how far we've come with technology. Like we whinge and complain these days about how hard things are, or we almost have too much flexibility, I think.
Yeah.
And then, like when you look at old film and the old processes, more beautiful, happy accidents were made back in the day. Yeah. Through that struggle of just how can we do this without a budget or without the technology.
Yeah. And you listen to the old veteran film editors, and they talk about it like it's an art form. They talk about it like they actually have to think about what they're doing in the shots they're creating, when these days a lot of editors will just fucking try anything and cut it because they can. They can do 10 versions of one scene, it doesn't matter, and then different iterations. But the old editors didn't always have that luxury, and they would have to really think about the shot they're going to cut before they cut it.
It's almost like they'd have to take, big risks in decisions and say, well, this is, what I'm going to have to do to make these shots work, or this the way the scenes flow. And we've heard it a lot like how a lot of films were saved in the editing back in the day because editors were so understanding of how to make films work. Like Star Wars, for example, was a big one that was saved in the edit, apparently, and I believe that because, the proof is there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an art form that I guess is lost its organicness.
Yeah.
There was a very organic way and method to cut together film. But now it's almost like, once again, we're so flexible with things, just creating as many versions as we want. And then what does that do? Then we got 10 different versions and you go, well, I can't decide which one's the best one.
And then many differences in it. It's
almost like That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's the same problem with CGI or something. You know, it's almost like we got too much at our disposal.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, let's make things out of necessity rather than luxury.
Now, unfortunately, that's how it is. Like, every film is edited digitally. Every single one. Even those that are saying, oh, no, these films use film. Yeah, they use film. They shoot on film. They scan it in and edit it in digital. And that's just how it's all done now.
Yeah, I can't visualize anyone using a pair of scissors anymore,
No.
cutting all this shit
That is done.
and reeling it on the wheels and, you know, all
Pressing the
that
play,
sort of- yeah.
making sure that the audio, you got the audio little strip you
Yeah.
need to make sure it's on there.
Have you seen, just a quick little thing, have you seen that Coen Brothers movie about Hollywood that came out recently? Hail Caesar?
No, should I? Well, tell us the story.
Oh, because it's all basically about, like, that's set in the golden age of Hollywood,
Perfect. Yeah.
right? I can't remember if it's the 40s or, yeah, around then. But it's sort of like Frances McDormand, who's the main actress in Fargo. And, what's that, Billboards movie of Mississippi? Through Billboards.
Yeah.
She was the main actress in that.
Yeah, that was a good one.
You know, she's married to one of the Coen brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And she's got this role in it. She's an editor. And she's, I
Wow.
think, based on one of the old female editors that used to be in Hollywood. And she's just cut together all this film, and her tire gets stuck in one of the machines.
Oh, wow.
She's getting
Yeah.
choked and shit.
Shit.
And yeah, it's really interesting just to see. That's a love letter to the old ways, you know.
Perfect.
A lot of people hated that film, but I think true film geeks and Coen Brothers fans and all that sort of thing got it.
Yeah.
But a lot of the outside people just had no idea. Like, they were just like, this is not funny.
The insights probably couldn't.
It's really interesting if you're into film.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
Very good. All right, back onto Spielbergian.
Mr. Spielberg, who hit the industry like the iceberg did to the Titanic.
Yeah. Would you like to continue his story?
Yeah, I can give it a go.
Talk about his old experience with the studios.
Yeah. So how he actually got into the studios, he did a little internship, didn't he? I don't know if it was Universal Studios, but yeah, one of them. And he got like a 3-day internship, was it?
It was a little one. I can't remember.
Yeah. And
the
then,
dates.
and then after that finished up, he just sort of started just coming in every day and just because he got to know the gate man, you know, the guy that's
Security
at the gate,
guard,
the
yeah.
security guard at the front, and just sort of just waved at him every time he walked in as if it was business as usual. And back then, I'm sure things weren't as tight as they would be these days, so
Yeah.
you could sort of get away with little things like that,
Yeah.
and it probably wasn't deemed criminal,
Yeah.
you know. And he sort of found an empty or a vacant sort of office space and set up his own little office.
Yeah.
And, you know, had his briefcase with his lunch in it
Yeah.
and all this sort of stuff.
If anyone has listened to his interviews, he'll talk about where he'd walk onto like different sets and he'd just sit there until someone kicks him out.
And they're like, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
That's how you got to do it, though. It just goes to show, unfortunately, like, this day and age, we can't really get away with that sort of thing. He is, like, the embodiment, someone that was passionate and went out there and achieved ultimate success.
Yeah.
You know, and he's still considered the #1 director of all time, if not in the top 5, top 3.
I think he'll definitely be the most recognisable.
Yeah. He's almost the one that changed the industry the
Yeah.
most. He's
Yeah.
had the most effect on the industry. And, you know, you've got your Kubricks and your Hitchcocks and
Yeah.
many, many more. But he's the one that's kind of, for the modern era,
Yep.
really just flipped Hollywood, didn't he?
Yeah. And now with DreamWorks, he is the industry.
Yeah, now he is like, yeah. But anyway, yeah, so he snuck onto the film set, he made his presence known, you know, and ended up getting little gigs from there.
Yeah. He got a, 5-year
5-year contract to
contract to
do
a TV show. Yeah, that's right.
And I know that was a hard time for him because I've watched a lot of interviews with him and his documentaries and stuff, and you know, because he was the young kid on the block, and everyone else, and at that time in Hollywood, everyone was like 40, 50 plus as a average. So when you got like a young 20-year-old, you know, wanting to get involved in being a director, you think actors and cast and crew are going to listen to someone half their age.
Yeah.
Most of
He
the
wasn't
time,
taken
not.
seriously.
No, yeah. But, you know, here and there, I'm sure he did get little bits of support, which kept him going. But yeah, eventually got that film, TV movie Duel.
Yeah.
and which was meant for TV, but I think it was that good they ended up putting it on theaters as well at that time, and it was very, very successful.
Yeah, and I guess a little bit background about that film. So the film's basically about a car versus truck, really.
It's like a high-speed chase or something like that, you know.
And the interesting thing that I got out of that was they were treating the truck almost like a monster, like it had its own essence, its own brain. Yeah,
it's almost like it is a creature feature, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like you see the driver's hands and stuff, but you're still at the same time you're still thinking, no, this truck is alive, and that driver is just almost like an extension of the creature.
Yeah.
Or he's not even driving it; he's just sitting in there, and the truck's doing everything else. You know. Yeah. It's almost got that feel to it.
With the end where it like falls off the cliff and crashes, rather than having like this huge big explosion. You know,
which is so typical.
Which I know they wanted to do. They just wanted to see this huge big explosion.
It's very climactic.
Yeah.
Boom. Yeah.
But Spielberg was pretty adamant that he wanted to see the death of the creature, which was the truck. They wanted to have those shots where you could see the truck was weeping and mangled in pain. You could see the carcass of this, you know, this creature that was, you know, tormenting the car.
And it's sort of, when it rolls down that cliff, it's got all the dust and all that pouring up. And it's kind of, it's a lot more eerie and a lot more believable. And if you just had an explosion, this would have been another one with an explosion. Right, and it just would have had almost a dated feel to it. Whereas having the non-explosion...
It would have been, in a way, I'd feel it would almost be just as anticlimactic doing that, because it would be so short and then it'll be over. But he was able to hold that feeling, make it linger, which allowed us to actually feel the pain of this truck, even though it wasn't a real thing.
And it's very cathartic at the end, because you get that bit of a release with it. And the actor as well, he just does the stirring explosion and you know. But yeah, highly recommend that film. As a first film, how he made that very economically. He storyboarded it, you know, from beginning to end. He knew his shots, he knew the locations, he knew what he was going to do about filming all one way. So you're sort of looking at the background from the left-hand side, and then he just flipped it so everything becomes on the other side of the road, and you wouldn't even pick that up. Like, it's just how to cut your workload in half almost, and the budget as well. Yeah, so that's just savvy filmmaking, basically. And that's why he was the genius he is, because he could really break things apart.
And work within limitations.
Which is,
I think, really important for anyone, especially when you're starting out and you have no money, you have no budget. Just thinking about, if you want to achieve a certain shot or a certain scene, you just have to think about it, break it down to the essence of what you want, and you can do it. And it's something that I've done in the past many times. Yeah. Sort of work within your limitations. And yes, it might be done a certain way in Hollywood, where they've got the money and the endless resources to do it. But if you think about it and you break it down, there's usually some other ways of achieving similar shots or results. Yeah.
So 1975, we had Jaws. Hit the theaters.
There was the beginning of an era. It shook the world.
Just shook it and rattled the world.
Grabbed it.
Yeah.
And all the sharks came out of the water.
Everyone came out of the water.
Yeah.
Sharks went in, people came out. But yeah, I mean, gee.
The effect that had on the human psyche back then.
Oh my God.
You know, even though I wasn't born, but just hearing the stories.
Oh, it doesn't surprise me, you know.
You know, how it created a fear in people's minds. Some people couldn't even go in the water ever again, just because they're
scarred for life.
The thought that a creature might...
A big Leviathan great white shark is going to come and swallow you whole.
Megalodon.
Yeah, that piece of shit of a movie. It's amazing. You can have such a good movie in 1975 that barely shows a shark. And then you get something like Megalodon or Deep Blue Sea of recent times, which, you know, or all the other million shark movies that have come out. And, you know, show CGI sharks.
Yeah.
To no great effect.
And it's because they're focusing on the wrong thing. Yeah. They got to turn the cameras around and film the actors. Yeah. Rather than just filming the creature. Filming what is perceived as the scary part of it.
It's almost the human
They needed,
reaction
yeah.
is
We
more-
need really what Spielberg did was he was able to show, rather than showing the scary elements all the time, show people's reaction to the scary thing and how that affects their psyche and affects
Our psyche.
relationships and our
It's
psyche.
infectious. Because there's from the actors who can portray fear will spread to the audience. You know,
Yeah,
what you show on screen is gonna go to the audience basically, and it's just a textbook approach. When you look at it in hindsight now, like when you look at Jaws in hindsight, you go, yeah, well, it makes sense, not to show the shark and all that sort of stuff. But man, the struggles they went through on that film to make that movie is insane.
and that was at the forefront of technology too, with like animatronics, the beginnings of animatronics and stuff like that, where they created a mechanical shark for some of the shots, and then half the time they didn't use it because it broke down, and
Yeah, because you got to think, you put a big machine into the live sea, like salt water, one of the most destructive things, and just the waves and the ocean itself.
Yeah.
Disasters left, right, and center. Every day they had to close filming down for months. That was Spielberg's idea. He wanted to film it on the sea. He didn't want to film it in the back lot or in some pool, in the studios.
Yeah.
He wanted to go out there and film it. And he said that's, I remember in his interviews, he said it's basically crazy. Like when he looks back at it, he was young and he did it. But look what it did for him.
Yeah.
It's still hailed as one of the greatest films of all time.
It catapulted him to stardom.
Superstardom. And, like even the actors and everything that came together through that process of the film, you got Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, Richard Dreyfuss, those three main actors. I know he wanted other actors for those roles, but he eventually got those three at the end of the day. And this is what happens. And it's actually... I think it worked to its benefit because he had Roy Scheider, who was almost like a very, very much an everyman.
Yeah.
And Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss were the other sides of that. And it's just like, I don't know, just those three actors together was brilliant.
Yeah.
In the end.
Because, it is a simple... It's people on a boat talking, really.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
It is.
You break down every one of his films, usually that's what you're looking at. It's just people and they're talking somewhere. And this one is in a situation that's... larger than life. They're put in a place where they can't really escape, and looking at how people would deal with that issue.
Yeah. It's amazing. There's so much praise flung at this film, and these days you get a lot of people looking back at it and going, "Oh, it's so old. It looks dodgy. The shark doesn't look real. Whatever." But it's almost like, they're missing the point.
Well, it is so simple, though, that anyone who wanted to could make the film, really. Apart from having the shark. But again, as we said, we hardly saw the shark. So anyone can go on a charter boat, and with a camera and with a couple of friends or actors and film it, really. You just got to make sure that the challenge and the real praise from this film was the story and working with the story and directing the film to support that story. Like, if we look at the newer shark films, their directing is all about showing the menace, showing the shark and supporting the threat rather than supporting the story. And focusing on the story element and the essence of what that is the important part to show.
Yeah.
Again, what we'll start talking about early Spielberg, is that he would show the people more than he'd show the creatures. And it's the same with anything. Like Jurassic Park is a very similar one. Jaws.
It's almost like his template.
Yeah.
Or his formula. It's not his template, it's more his formula that he'd... First and foremost, it's almost like you create a very strong core of your film or your story, which is something we relate to, which is the family or the human element. And if that's strong, then you can have your aliens or your monsters or your creatures on the outside of that.
Yeah.
And that sort of just supports
The gloss coat over the top.
So you almost have like a family film. with this added element, which really shakes it all up.
Which, to support this story, if we move on to the next one, which is Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Yeah, his passion project.
Again, it's following that tradition of focusing on the people.
The family.
And being in an extraordinary position.
Yeah, I mean, Close Encounters is a brilliant film, you know. That was almost like his love letter to living in the desert. His dad took him out to see an asteroid shower or comet shower, whatever you call them. And he sort of, you know, with aliens and all that sort of UFO, bizzo, you know, just wanted to go into that sort of thing. And yeah, that's just one of those films that's almost like something can't be done again, you know. It is the father alien encounter movie, isn't it, really? Yeah. When you think about alien encounter films, that is pretty much the main
start,
the main one. And then he's got others coming after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, beautiful film, Richard Dreyfuss once again.
And it's all about the psychology of people. Absolutely. That's what it was about, really.
Yeah.
Crazy things happen to you, and how you deal with that?
I still find it so crazy though when I watch that movie. Like for Spielberg, even him being such a young man at that stage, you know, the Richard Dreyfuss character leaves his family at the end of the film and goes off with the aliens. Like, that would not happen these days, you know, where you have the father go, bye, you know, I'm going with the aliens now, I'm going to leave my kid and my kids and my wife behind, you know. It's just interesting when you look back at it from that angle. But yeah, it's just... This is the golden age of Spielberg, where he was just film after film was just so interesting and so human and beautiful. Just the love affair with film was just permeating through these movies, you know.
Yeah. And going back to that end shot that we were talking about, you know, the end scene we were talking about. Dun, 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 dun. I mean, that was so clever itself, using the music. But they don't show you... Yes, they show you a silhouette of these creatures, but that's all you see. You see this misty light.
You don't get good shots of them. Yeah.
No. And one or two shots, like there's that beautiful shot where you see the full ship. Yeah. And then the ship fly off. And those shots,
the mothership.
They were really nice. For back then, that was done really well.
Oh, absolutely. The compositing and... that is insane in that film.
Yeah.
Beautiful stuff. And then the next one after this was his Misstep. So this is a good example of, you know, not everyone's going to have their pitfalls and run into a roadblock.
Especially even the biggest of them do.
Yeah, 1941. You know, he thought...
Wanted to be funny.
And he thought he was invincible.
Yeah.
And thought whatever he could do, it was going to work because he had so much success to this point. And this film just totally flopped. It was meant to be funny. It's a war film. That's a comedy, and it just failed on every level. Yeah, no one laughed. And Spielberg said he used to go in on, you know, and you know, on the previews or whatever you call it when he's going around watching the film with audiences. Dead silence to the whole film, and he's just, you know, head in his hands, just like
the premieres. It was just nothing.
It's just nothing, nothing. You know, could hear pin drops. But. Yeah, he said that the film is just so loud. Like, I've tried watching it, and it is just so noisy. Yeah. And this is the thing. He reckons that it just was overwhelming to audiences, and no one could kind of... You know, for the most part, I think people just couldn't understand or get involved in the film because it was just a barrage, you know, on their senses. Too much. But, you know, there's a lot of good stuff in that film when you break it apart and look at it. But overall, it just doesn't even really feel like a Spielberg film. It feels like someone else is sort of, you know, someone else is mocking Spielberg, or it looks like that, you know, on the outside. And then you go, it's a hard one. It's a really trippy moment in Spielberg's career. But I think that shaped him for the better.
But it's still, like, at least he was trying and experimenting, I guess. Yeah. I guess you can say that. No. People were willing to let him experiment.
Well, that's what really tightened him up, because that, you know, was such a failure. He thought, oh shit, the next film I do has to come in under budget, has to be on time, and it has to be a success. Yeah. Has to be popular. So all those boxes need to be ticked.
Which we can move on to his next collaboration.
Yeah, which was with Mr. George Lucas, who said, I've got this idea. I think it was Indiana Smith, it was the original title. Right. And... Spielberg was like, I like the idea. I always want to do a James Bond kind of film, a pulpy sort of thing, throwback. And he said, I don't like the name though. Yeah. And then it just became Indiana Jones somehow. And, you know, Indiana was the name of George Lucas's dog.
Okay,
And then, from there. And look at the film that came out, Raiders of the Lost Ark, 1981.
Yeah.
One of the best movies ever made. And I don't care what you say, but... I mean, you talk to, or you hear most filmmakers praise this film as the film. So it's almost a throwback to that era of filmmaking, which is just on the day, or just, how do we get this done? Let's just do it. Bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
And very economic film, and skills are on display there. Beautiful. If not, that's one of the best film of the 80s. If not, to this point in time, it's still regarded as one of the best films ever made. And it's just an adventure romp,
Yeah.
And it's great. Harrison Ford really propelled to stardom from this film. He did Han Solo and a few other films. I mean, Han Solo and Star Wars and a few other films, but this is the one that made Harrison Ford the Harrison Ford we know today.
Yeah.
Everyone wanted to be him, from this point. Like, I want to be an archaeologist that carries a gun and a whip, in a hat.
It's the Star Wars of adventure movies, really. That's kind of what it is.
What a double whammy from Star Wars to Indiana Jones.
Crazy.
And then they're just trading off, It's like a Star Wars film coming out, then the next Indiana Jones, and then a Star Wars film
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow.
Back then, that was the...
That was the marvel of the day, wasn't it? Like, that's kind of like in comparison to ultimate success and everyone talking about him, all the kids going to watch him and wanting to be him and playing him as them, the characters and the toys.
Merchandise, yeah.
This is where it all began. This is what started that trend.
Yeah.
And the coupling of Star Wars and Indiana Jones just created this whole new way of film.
Yeah. And I brought a whole heap of new audiences to film too. For a lot of the 20th century, it was, films started getting that snobby approach to them.
Yeah.
Where people were almost seen as, having to be a bit more intellectual when watching films.
Sure. Yeah.
But I think this was the beginning of seeing a new appreciation for film in a different way, where it became about something you can talk about with your friends, at school, and you can get involved with. Yeah, it did. It became fun.
Like, the 70s was a very serious time.
It was very dark. Yeah.
And
very bleak.
I mean, you had Godfather, you had, French Connection, you had Rosemary's Baby, you had Exorcist, you had all these, The Omen, you had all these films coming out that were, in backlash to the previous decade, which was a lot more lighthearted. You had your big film, David Lean films, you had massive movies, historical movies.
The musical era backed off.
Yeah.
And that was the musical era was the everyday people, what like the Marvel is now. But then that died off pretty much.
Yeah.
And the 60s was kind of like the end of it.
Yeah, totally.
And then as you said, we had a very bleak
70s.
We had great films, but they just weren't they just weren't like the lighthearted fun that we're used to now.
Yeah. And I mean, and that was in response to what was happening in the world. Like, the film world really revolves around what's happening in the world, currently. And, you had the Vietnam War, we had equal rights coming in, we had, all these sorts of things happening in the world, big changes, and the films were reflecting that. There was a lot of crime, a lot of this stuff, corruption, things were being explored, being aired out, things were being discovered and talked about, and, we weren't hiding things in society as much anymore. It wasn't all sugar-coated and...
counterculture sort of was born there.
From the hippie movement and just this freedom of speech and thinking, and breaking away from tradition and parents,
having
and
a voice,
strictness.
chasing your own dreams, and not having to fall into not being the fifth minor in your family,
business, or whatever it is, in your mum and pop shop. You go, no, I want to go to Hollywood and I'm going to make myself into something, Ma. And they go, no, son. And they go, well, screw you, I'm out of here.
Oh, shucks.
Oh, shucks. But anyway, let's move on. This is the one that's platinum. This is the platinum one.
This is the family film
the main family film, like the one that created dreams in kids' minds.
And the thing is that I love about it is that it's really a film about an outsider, But that outsider was as fake as can be. We knew that thing wasn't real, but we still felt it.
Yeah.
And that's what Hollywood needs to wake up and
Remember.
realize is that this is a film that we could accept for what it was. Wasn't trying to be this amazing, perfectly looking. It can have flaws. Film's allowed to have flaws.
And if you don't know, we're talking about E.T.
Oh, we haven't said that, have we?
No.
E.T.
Entertainment Tonight. No.
Great show. I love that. I watch it every day. No.
Oh, the Extra-Terrestrial, Mr. E.T. Man, what a film.
E.T. Phone Home.
Yeah. I mean, this was an explosion. And this dominated the industry in the cinemas.
Mm-hmm.
This became like the number one film everywhere. And nothing else compared. And nothing else had a chance.
Yeah.
And you had other films come out at the same time, which just bombed next to it. Which was like, I think it was like The Thing and Blade Runner and, other films, that came out as well. But wow.
While we're on the subject of bombing, this film, even though it was so successful, has been blamed for murdering the game industry back at the time.
Oh, it did, yes, of course. Yes.
Where Spielberg said, just make a game, it doesn't matter, we've got 5 weeks or 6 weeks or whatever it was, just make any game, I don't care. We have to have a game because it's what's cool.
Yeah.
There were many other games that were getting made that weren't great. They were designed by engineers that didn't understand games. It wasn't created like artists like it is today and understand it as an art form like we do today. They were developed by engineers and everyone just had to have a game on the shelf, but it didn't have to be good. And so E.T. was forced through and they had this really crappy glitchy game and it's just terrible. And they actually had to bury most of the games in the desert.
Yeah.
Because no one would buy them. And I remember a few years ago, they actually dug them up again.
I heard about that. Yeah.
And there was like all this film crew and they actually were showing up to the film crew. And they were there. They still had the original packets and the game was there. Oh, it's great.
That's amazing. Horrible game.
But luckily, the game industry sorted itself out in the coming years. Back to film.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we could gush about E.T. and every one of his films, basically, from this period. If you want to know more about E.T., there's a zillion other things you can look into on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're just going to sort of go through them, because otherwise we'll be here for about a week talking. Twilight Zone, the movie. I think he directed one segment in that. Yeah. I remember watching that. It was good.
Another Indiana Jones.
This is a bit controversial, this one, because when watching these ones as a kid, all three of them, especially this one, I loved it. But at the same time, it was kind of like, this feels different. This doesn't feel like the other two. Yeah. It's kind of the black sheep out of the three. It's a lot darker, but I really, really enjoyed it and became attached to it because it is filmed in Sri Lanka, where my father's from.
Oh, wow, okay.
But it's actually meant to be in India, but they couldn't film there at the time, so they filmed it in Sri Lanka. So yeah, I mean, just from that standpoint alone, I really love the setting. I like the the approach of it and the darkness of it. And it's a strange one because it's very different to Raiders. The Raiders, they're fighting Nazis and you're dealing with, the Ark. Mm-hmm. And this one's a lot more less. The stakes are a lot less, really. I mean, they're just rescuing kids from enslavement from this clan. It's a much smaller, darker cult film. I reckon it's brilliant. And it's actually a prequel. It's set before Raiders, which, I didn't find out for, when I was a kid. And I actually looked, I remember they had the years on the videos. It's like, the years that they're set in. And I remember I seeing Temple of Doom set before the first one. I'm like, huh?
Good use of visual effects. It actually won Oscars for that.
Yeah,
which is great.
Mainly for the minecart chase. That was the thing that made them win.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at it today and it's a bit hokey in a lot of places, but that's the beauty of it once again.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you compare it to, say, Crystal Skull.
Well, this is 1984. It's like 35 years ago.
35 years. It's older than I am. All right. And then there's, moving on, Spielberg gets serious. Because everyone was starting to say he's such a child mind. Very children-heavy films, even though he did Jaws and stuff like that. But they're all fantasy and, it wasn't real. And he was getting, I think, a bit of flack from serious filmmakers.
Yeah, he was
drama,
right.
And they were like saying like, oh, he can't make a serious film.
And he was kind of blamed for ruining cinema.
And from the 70s too, of this really serious culture reflection and society, reflection of society. Yeah. He comes in all this fantastic.
It's all just fluff. All these are just fluff films and no one, it's destroying what it means to be a film.
So he went through this bit of a phase of proving himself in drama. So The Colour Purple, that's a heavy film.
Yeah.
Even though the book is supposed to be so much darker, and Spielberg still fluffed it a lot.
Yeah.
And he's still blamed for that, for fluffing it. You still watch that film, and man, if you can get through that film without feeling
it's tough.
something.
You're right. He got really dark at this time.
Ooh.
He was really hitting some.
And what a project to take on. You know, an African American story like this for a
1985.
That's Jewish guy.
Yeah, tough subject, especially back then. That would have been tough.
That's a lot to deal with, you know, and to take on and to sort of be at the forefront.
Yeah.
Oh man, what an achievement, I reckon.
And while we're on the subject of tough subjects, Empire of the Sun.
It's another one.
Yeah.
Back to back.
Yeah.
And Christian Bale's first film role as a kid. John Malkovich as well. He's in it. But yeah, wow. Christian Bale's performance in this. If there is a kid performer of the decade, or I mean, not the decade, the century.
Yeah.
Christian Bale is definitely up there.
Yep.
Because this film is just on his back, basically. Great drama, great sort of war biopic.
Yep.
About this credible story. Highly rated. I'd definitely recommend that one. For something different, of a different Spielberg flavour.
It's another example of one of those films that he's really good at working with child subjects and making us relate to children.
He's got the really good know-how of how to work with children.
Yeah.
Get good performances out of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we're sort of going into the third Indiana Jones film, Last Crusade, which brings in Sean Connery as his dad.
Yep.
I mean, this is sort of a return back to the Raiders sort of style. And yeah, it's a great sort of capping of the trilogy. Then we hit Always, which is another collaboration between him and Richard Dreyfuss. It's got John Goodman and Holly Hunter in it. And it's about sort of back to his love affair with planes. Not so much a great film in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not one of his most memorable.
No. This comes in a little bit of a lull for him because he did Hook after that, another children's film.
Which I remember as a child really liking it.
I absolutely loved it as a child.
It was great. Like, that came out right when both of us were children, and that was, just the wonder of it.
So much wonder.
Yeah.
I wanted to be one of the Lost Boys, and be in that world, and I loved it. Absolutely. And Robin Williams, Dustin Hoffman, Julia Roberts playing Tinkerbell.
The crocodile. Or the alligator, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. Bob Hoskins as Smee.
Yeah. And that's some great visual effects in that too.
Yeah. Hook. Where's the hook?
Yeah.
And Rufio. Had some really cool, memorable shit in that. But Robin Williams, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Need not say anything else,
Amazing.
And for him to be Peter Pan as a grown-up version, I love that angle they took on it. That's so fresh. They struggle to do that sort of thing these days.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we'll take an unknown property and just flip it and do something different with it. And really, it's an awesome idea, I reckon. And then we sort of hit into his real big phase.
Where he had money.
Yeah.
Started getting some money, getting attention.
All of it. Jurassic Park, he worked on 2 films at the same time, which is something he's done quite a lot. But he did Jurassic Park and Schindler's List at the same bloody time.
Listen to our last podcast about Jurassic Park, so I won't talk so much about that one, but Schindler's List, fuck me.
Oh, black and white, most brutal. If you're going to do a serious movie and want people to take you seriously, this is how you do it.
Just a slap in the face.
You think The Colour Purple was bad?
Yeah, black and white, and then the red.
Yeah, of the girl. Red dress. Oh my. Liam Neeson, Ben Kingsley, Ralph Fiennes. Oh my god. That is the pinnacle of filmmaking there. I'm doing tough subjects. It is up there in probably the top tier. It will never be defeated in its achievements.
Way. Can't be.
And then we sort of hit his next lull period, where he almost did replication of his last 2 works, because he did the follow-up to Jurassic Park, The Lost World, and at the same time he did Amistad.
Yeah.
So another tough subject dealing film. And both of those films of much lesser quality of the previous 2.
Yeah. Saving Private Ryan, though, that was
a
big one.
Back on it again. He's like, okay, I've had a couple of duds again. Now I'm going to smash you in the face with World War II.
Yeah.
This
was well done. This is, again, tough subjects, but focusing on characters.
Yeah. Tom Hanks. So many actors in this that are just awesome. But Tom Hanks, at the centre of it all, just owns it.
Yeah.
Absolutely owns it. And you got like Barry Pepper, Edward Burns, Tom Sizemore, Matt Damon, Vin Diesel, Giovanni Ribisi, and then you got so many other cameos, like all war films that have so many cameos. You got, you know, Ted Danson, you got Paul Giamatti, Dennis Farina, you know, all these guys just showing up along throughout the film, and it's just, oh man.
And it was such a big film with so
Huge.
much practical.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah. And that's what made
Had
that film.
extras for miles. It was amazing.
Yeah. The best war film, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You had another one come out that same year, Thin Red Line, both good. But Saving Private Ryan is like the blockbuster war film.
Huge.
Now we're getting into the end of the 90s as he moves into the 2000s.
Yeah.
Starting off with the sci-fi one.
Mm-hmm.
And AI was originally a Kubrick film,
Mm-hmm.
a script that Kubrick was developing and hoping to make. And ended up getting Spielberg on and saying, can you take over this project? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
But it's quite interesting because you got E.T. and then AI. 2 films dealing with children, different subjects. One's about the alien, the next one's about robots and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Another dark film.
Mm-hmm.
I love this movie, but it's very hard to watch.
It's like the grown up E.T. really.
It is in ways.
But a lot of elements in it.
Yeah.
Very long.
Very long too.
But
it's not perfect.
Yeah, but it is still it's a nice journey. It is.
The first hour of it is really good, and then the last half not so much.
Yeah, lags on a bit.
Yeah. Minority Report. This is his collaboration with Tom Cruise.
A
great sort of pairing because they're both top of their games. you know?
Yeah.
And I love this film.
Yep.
Great sci-fi romp. You know, you don't have to take it too seriously, but it has serious elements in it. But it's got that fun in it still.
Yep.
Colin Farrell.
Typical Hollywood film.
Max von Sydow.
Yep.
Great casting, great setting, great effects.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just a good love affair to film again.
Yeah.
Catch Me If You Can after that.
Yep. Well, that was
This is a brilliant film.
amazing. It was stripped back.
This is a great pairing between Leo and Spielberg, and once again he pulls in Tom Hanks, who he's worked with a few more times after this, and just had a good working relationship going on.
Yeah.
And that was perfect. Christopher Walken, Amy Adams is in that
amazing.
too.
Yeah.
Just brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Can't talk up Catch Me If You Can enough. The music in it is amazing. Once again, John Williams. If you don't know, John Williams has done pretty much 99% of Spielberg's work. I think he's done them all except for one. And then after this was a strange film, The Terminal. Tom Hanks again. This is a very low-key, simple film.
Yeah.
Just centered around Tom Hanks and his strange performance. Yeah. But I think it's a nice small film.
It seemed like Spielberg wanted to try just getting back to the roots and just do something a bit
simple.
Smaller. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like an actor and director sort of just having fun, basically. And then we go into War of the Worlds in Munich. It's like another pairing, 2 films coming out at the same time. Again, War of the Worlds, Tom Cruise again.
CG heavy.
I didn't really like it. I enjoy the first half an hour. Yeah. And then it really just doesn't go where I want it to go.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't mind it. But having said that, I'm kind of tainted in that I really enjoyed the story of War of the Worlds. Yeah, how that started out as like a radio play.
Yeah, I love it. Orson Welles and that.
Yeah,
it's great. Like I love the concept, love the idea.
Yeah,
I just think the way they approached the new one wasn't right.
I'm kind of telling myself to like it. I think more than I actually did like it.
Don't get me wrong. Tom Cruise is great in it. There's some really good stuff in it. The design, the sound of the tripods is really cool.
There's that certain shot where it feels like a continuation of a shot where they're driving in the car and it just goes on forever.
With the bridge going and all that.
And then pans out and they had to figure out how to do that shot.
Some good technical stuff.
In terms of stories, I mean, it is what it is.
And then Munich. I love this film. Munich with Eric Bana, a guy from Melbourne. Started off in comedy.
That was when he started getting looked at a lot too.
Yeah. He was sort of the hot Aussie actor on the block at that time. Yeah. He had Daniel Craig in it, and another host of great actors. Jeffrey Rush is also an Aussie in that. But a good sort of selection of actors and dealing with tough subject matter and really, really skillfully shot. And I don't know, it's just got this kind of old sort of feel to it. When's it set? The 70s? I think this was his last great film, to be honest. Yeah. Till now, to 2020. I still count Munich as his last great effort of something that made quite a deep impact on me. Not the film deep impact, but He produced that. But yeah.
Yeah.
And then he sort of entered another phase of filmmaking, which I think is a lot lesser than his previous works.
Yep. Indiana Jones, new one.
Which was almost a stain
Crystal
on the franchise.
Skull. Yeah, which...
We need not say any more on that because everyone knows about that one.
Yeah.
Tintin. Yeah, it's pretty much another sort of Indiana Jones style approach.
Animation. It was beautifully animated.
It's good that he did an animation.
Weta,
New Zealand.
good old New Zealand.
Peter Jackson was supposed to do the next one, but still hasn't happened.
No, I think...
So I don't think that's going to happen.
Unfortunately, Peter Jackson's having his own lull at the moment, so we'll see how we go from there.
Probably shouldn't have done the Hobbit movies.
No.
Warhorse. I still haven't finished this film.
I watched it. Can't tell you what it's about.
I don't like seeing animals getting hurt on film.
It's tough. No.
And I just didn't. I wasn't enjoying the whimsicalness of it.
I get what he was trying to get at. Like I could, if someone gave me an elevator pitch of it, the idea seems like it could work. But it was just dark and long and painful.
Yeah.
And not in a good way. It was kind of I didn't really want to be.
I wasn't feeling it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't finish it. Lincoln. I've tried watching this about 3 times. I think I've fallen asleep 3 times.
Yeah. Can't do it.
Daniel Day-Lewis. I love him. But yeah, geez, I don't know what the hell they're talking about half the time.
Yeah.
Might be better if I was American or something. I don't know. Bridge of Spies. Pretty boring. I love Tom Hanks and Spielberg working together. I'm all for it. And Mark Rylance again. You know, after the BFG. Oh well, same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, boring film. Doesn't really have anything in it.
No.
If you take Tom Hanks out of it, you got nothing. The BFG, once again, another animation.
Yeah, I mean, kids will like it, but...
I saw it at cinema and it was okay. I liked the original cartoon better.
Yeah.
Especially when I was a kid. I loved it.
It was great. The book used to get read in like primary school back in the day. It was amazing.
Whiz pop, whiz bang.
It was good fun.
The Post. Now, this is one I've been meaning to watch.
I haven't watched it.
Not yet.
Okay.
I've just rewatched like Spotlight, another film, and I'm thinking, hey, I got to watch The Post.
Yeah.
So,
they're very similar films. One of his best ones in quite a while.
I think it was a bit overlooked as well because he had like Spotlight and other films coming out. And
it was another performance film. Amazing
Tom
performances.
Hanks, Meryl Streep.
Yeah, and they were great in it.
Yeah, as they always are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to watch that.
And that, like, he always seems to do better with those performance pieces.
Yeah.
Where it is about the performance more than anything.
That's kind of where he's at now. You know, his effects stuff, his effects heavy stuff just doesn't feel as interesting. And I think that's because of his age too. Yeah. Ready Player One. We've already done a massive spiel on this one in a previous episode.
The spiel about Spielberg.
Yeah, spiel on the Spielberg. Ready Player One. Didn't really enjoy it. I appreciated him going back to this territory, but I don't think this was the right project for him.
If you want to know our full story, go listen to our last podcast.
Yes, please do.
We do talk about it in quite detail. We do get quite passionate.
We do. I mean, there's no point me repeating myself here about it, really. Yeah. But overall, I just found it... I felt like other people were trying to make a Spielberg film. Yep. And him using his, Back to the Future stuff and all the pop culture icon, like the Halo characters, all his game characters, and you had like the xenomorph bursting out of a chest in one moment. You had callbacks to The Shining. It was almost too much. You had the Iron Giant, and it just ends in this massive battle, even though the Iron Giant is sort of meant to be a film about anti-war. Yeah. And then he ends up going into this massive battle at the end of this film. It just feels like it had its wires crossed.
It was too big. It
wasn't right. No. It wasn't right. And there was no real backbone in the film, really. It's more effects driven and sort of playing off the sort of Marvel era of filmmaking, where it's just not
trying to be culty.
It doesn't have heart.
No,
and it's lacking heart, and it's more about the punch rather than the heart. And it's kind of that's where it fails, because Spielberg's always better with the heart than the punch. It.
Summing up Spielberg, my reflections on his career so far would be: I felt that he used to do a lot better when he had smaller budgets, smaller stories. That's when he was shining. Was when he had those little stories, simple,
big ideas.
Always big. He
always big canvases.
Yeah, but in terms of his approach and what you see,
the angles he'd use and the perspectives and
like if you break down any of his successful films, what their story's about, really. You know, like so we said, Jaws. There's a couple of people talking on a boat. You know, E.T. is just a friendship.
It's
just
and in Kids on Bikes.
Yeah,
you know, and
those ones were remembered are smaller
Jurassic
ones.
Park.
Jurassic Park,
a lot
just
of talking.
a lot of talking.
Just a few actors and
Yeah.
you know, in a room. You know, Schindler's List. Even you're only
Yeah.
focusing on Schindler and
Yeah.
a few other characters. Very small. It's almost like he just, you know, minimizes the scope to just a few people that we see the world through.
Yeah, that's it. That's right. Saving Private Ryan. Well, you're Saving Private Ryan.
Yeah, it's a World War II, massive world scale war, but you're focused on just a handful of people.
So you can have it as look as big as you want, but it's the story
That
and
grounds it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's that journey that you're going on that you want to know about. When we were talking about Ready Player One, is that didn't have that central storyline
Like it
running
follows
through
that
it.
kid, but it's not strong enough. There's
No.
no backbone to it.
It got too big at the end, and we didn't know what to be following, and it was just too much.
It just didn't feel right.
Yeah.
But next, he's got a musical in the works. He's remaking West Side Story.
That's going to be interesting.
He's always wanted to do a musical.
Well,
so,
I mean,
you know.
West Side Story, that's an interesting one because West Side Story was shot beautifully when it was made, the original. So, I mean, what can you do that's different?
Yeah.
It's going to be an interesting one.
We'll see. And he's got a few other... He's got Indiana Jones coming.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. But until next time, thanks for listening.
I'll see you in the next one.
Adios.